like I said, protest action outside, and TMPD's redirecting traffic. So most of our colleagues are stuck in that traffic. So let us allow Mr. Bugaba to do his presentation. I think that will take us to 10 o'clock, then we can start. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson, committee members, city manager, colleagues. We were requested to do a presentation on direct media buying savings for the first quarter of the 2023-2024 financial year. But we decided to go beyond that and did a detailed presentation on the entire financial year, because we could see where things are going, that we would present for the first quarter and you'll call us for the second quarter and third quarter. So we tried to make your job easy. The purpose of this presentation is to demonstrate the city's cost savings through the deviation report on direct media buying for both statutory and other advertisements for the 2023-2024 financial year. So in the past, what we used to do is that, we've got a panel. So on the panel, we would procure advertising. And because of the relationship that we had cultivated with media houses, especially newspapers, we realized that we were being ripped off. And that's when we decided that instead of going through the panel or through the agencies, we'd rather procure directly from newspapers. So in 2020, we centralized the media buying process to manage all the newspaper advertisements on behalf of all the departments, not only on behalf of CME. And this shift markedly resulted in significant cost savings and improved payment accountability. It also prevented brand image issues caused by departments independently misusing brand guidelines in their advertising. We did not receive additional funding to cover all departmental adverts, requests that we were getting from various departments, and this necessitated budget efficiency due to the city's financial position, which we all know of. Challenges that we faced in the past were unpaid invoices from any department, which resulted in newspapers blocking the entire city's account for newspaper adverts. And this in turn created critical challenges when statutory adverts needed immediate placement. Now, statutory adverts are adverts that by law you are forced to put out notices, state of the capital address, your tenders, and budget speech. By law, we are required to put out those adverts. So what we then did was to say, to demonstrate to the committee that indeed what you had requested from us, that we must give you a breakdown of the savings, that we had realized that we do a comparative study of all the newspapers, how much they charge us when we go through agencies versus what we get if we go directly to the newspapers. The first one on the column, Brand Edge News, is the one that represents independent media. Independent media is the group that has the Star, Pretoria News, Argus, Diamond Fields Advertiser in Kimberley, and Independent in KZN. It's one of the biggest media houses. So the discount that these newspapers give to the city, you can see from the first slide that the discount that we're getting from Pretoria News is 30%, because Pretoria News is the only city newspaper that we are using here. And here are the different newspaper sizes. Now you'll see in the coming slides the difference. So the sizes are the same. 15 by 3 can see 10,000. The next column, 15 by 4, 14,000, and the total. Media 24, same, Bielt or Rapport or whatever. Arena is the holding company for Sunday Times, Sowetan, Times Live, Business Day, etc. So these are all the costs and the discounts that we are getting if we go directly. Some of the newspapers are not giving discounts. And so if you look at this slide, service provider 1, same size, this is how they are charging us. Brand Edge, the second column, 13,000. Media 24, 10,000. Arena, 10,000. Caxton Media is the media house that prints record newspapers, you know, the knock-on drops that we use in the city. And for other areas, the smaller houses or printing companies like Nelmans, they help us for the distribution of our internal newspaper called Tshwane Update. They distribute for us in Amanskraal, that's Hami Town, because Record does not have a footprint in that part of the world. And these are the totals on the last column. You can see the agency fees that we have paid amounts to over 90,000 rand. Service provider number 2, same size, same everything. You can see prices differ there. That you go to a newspaper, you ask for a quotation, same size, same everything, but the prices are not the same. Service provider number 3, same. You can see from the first column up to the third column, the different sizes and the amounts that are charged. So, the findings of this comparative study. Now, we didn't do the comparative study simply because the committee had asked us. We knew that this was the case, but we wanted to get you facts which you can independently verify. If you want to go to those agencies or you want to go to those newspapers, you are most welcome to go and independently verify the information. If you look at media agency number 1 on the second column, that the savings that we had realized on media agency number 1 is 30%, media agency number 2, 34%, media agency number 3 is 42%. So this is the actual spent in the 23-24 financial year. All the quotas are there. You can see the different prices that were being charged, and the total amount that we spent in the entire financial year was over 3 million rand. And here's a breakdown of the quotas, quarter 1 up to quarter 4, and the total is there. Last column towards the end, that 3 million that I alluded to earlier on, and you can see the saving that we realized there is about 1 million rand. So what are the findings of the cost comparison? Is that there's improved payment accountability and cost savings, and that there is no consistency in media agency pricing. Some agencies disclose their fees, others did not. And the pricing from media agencies is significantly higher than the quotes from media houses. This therefore suggests that agencies may not only profit from their agency fees, but also inflate their pricing, potentially leading to double dipping. By this I mean, you go to an agency, they tell you this is the agency fee. And these agencies, they also get discounts from media houses, which discounts they're not disclosing to us, they pocket that money. So that's what I mean by double dipping. So this benchmarking illustrated that the city has made a saving of 30% in the previous financial year. And we received positive comments from finance. They actually commended us for saving you, chairperson, and the city manager money. And I saw the chairperson of the APC here. He must be happy. and legal services also gave us positive comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. The colleagues, are there any questions? No questions. Thank you for that. Yeah, our colleagues are saying they're 10 minutes away, so the rules do allow us for 20 minutes in case we can't meet a quorum. And remember, we just need to exercise a little bit of patience because there is almost about 2.6 billion that we really need to deal with in terms of our UIFW. So I've gotten an indication that the colleagues are about 20 minutes, the traffic is moving. So can I just make a suggestion that we start our meeting at exactly 10 o'clock? I'll adjourn and then we can all come back at 10 o'clock because I think it is very important that we do deal with this UIFW. Thank you, colleagues. We'll see each other at 10. colleagues, it is 10 o'clock. Our colleagues that were stuck in traffic have finally made it. So I think we can get started. Okay, so for leave of absence, we've got, I've got an apology from Councillor Lawfully Shabani from the EFF. I've also got an apology from Councillor Arun Marilega, who is on leave, as well as Councillor Franz Bushielo, who's on sick leave. For minutes for consideration, the minutes have been sent to the colleagues. Can we adopt them? Can we have move for the adoption of the minutes? Okay, so the minutes are adopted. Can we then move to item number 4? This is matters arising. The first report is the Municipal Public Accounts Process Plan for 2024-2025. This report is between page 5 to page 24. As recommended. As recommended. Okay, thank you. Then we move to item 4. This is matters for consideration. The first report is from Group Financial Services Department, progress report and implementation of MFMA circular number 113 regarding the web-enabled audit action plan. This report is from page 25 to page 39. The recommendations are on page 39. As recommended, Councillor Farquharson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to make the point that in terms of the Structures Act, MPAC is responsible for overseeing the Auditor General findings and rectification. So it's wonderful to see this report. We'll put in requests for reports on specific items, but I would ask that this report be served monthly or at least quarterly. This is a very important report, and it's very much part of our legislated responsibilities. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Farquharson. As recommended. Then we move on to report number 2. This is from Human Settlements Department, report for MPAC, report to respond to questions raised by Section 79 Standing Committee on Public Accounts regarding the contracts for the development of Olivenhout Bosch Extension 60. The report is between page 40 and 48. Recommendations are on page 48. Councillor Farquharson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you look at the agenda, it looks like there's a duplication between item 2 and item 10. Can we delete this item 2 and deal with this matter under item 10, please?
If it's the same report, we can take it at 2 and then delete number 10.
All right, it's just we're waiting for Councillor Randall. Oh, she's here. All right.
No, she's been here. She was at the back. That's why we're able to start, because we did have.
All right, then I'll hand over to Councillor Randall.
Councillor Randall, do you have questions on report number 2 on Human Settlements Extension 60?
No, thank you, Chairperson. I just want to welcome the report and thank you for the comprehensiveness. I've studied it and I will communicate back to the people who asked for the information. I think we're getting somewhere with this project. We will keep our eyes on it, and the moment I'm sure if we can get at the final completion report of this project, I mean, it's people that needs houses and we cannot delay. We need to present them with their livable life or their livelihoods and improve it. And that's what I was aiming for, to just push and make sure that this project gets to completion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Randall. So the report is as recommended. We then move on to report number 3, Group Financial Services Department, Local Government Municipal Finance Management Act of 2003, Act 56 of 203, in-year financial report, monthly budget statement for the period ending 31 July 2024. This is between page 49 and 81. The recommendations are on page 56. As recommended. Colleagues, you must say as recommended so that Secretariat can capture, or if you've got questions, we must ask. Thank you. Then we go to report number 4, Office of the Speaker, request for logistical support for Section 79A Standing Committee on Public Accounts oversight work. This report is between page 82 to page 84. Also, just on that background, that for us to be able to do our work effectively, we do rely a lot on going to do actual physical inspections, so we do need commitment from the city for support. Are there any questions or as recommended? Okay, thank you. Then we'll go to report number 5. This report is from City Strategy and Organizational Performance Department, Local Government, Municipal Finance Management Act, Section 52D, Quarter 4 Performance Assessment Report on the implementation of the Service Delivery and Budget Implementation Plan. This report is between page 85 to 339. The recommendations are on page 339. As recommended. As recommended. Yes, okay, thank you, colleagues. Then we go to report number 6. This report is from Community and Social Development Services. Community and Social Development Services, list of deregistered pending and rejected application. This report is between page 340 and 346. The recommendations are on page 346. As recommended? Yes, okay. Councillor Randall?
Chair, yes, thank you. I just want to draw your attention to the comments from the Human Resources Department. And it's quite frightening to see that the HR staff component dealing with this massive task is 1 acting director, 3 deputy directors, 22 social workers, 4 admin officers, and 36 indigent field workers to implement this policy. It worries me. It's a massive task. We've got a lot of people that were deregistered, whether rightfully or wrongfully so. I'm just worried that this HR staff component is not able to deal effectively and speedily with the challenge at hand. Thank you.
Okay, I think those are noted. Is it as recommended? We're not making a recommendation. Okay, great. So as recommended. Then we go to report number 6. This is also from report number 7. This is also from Community and Social Department, Extended Public Works Program Division, training of expanded public works program. This is on 347 to 352. The recommendations are on page 352. As recommended. Okay. Then we'll go to number 8, Environment and Agriculture Management Department update on report on the status of the manual weighbridge system and the action plan for addressing landfill weighbridge repairs. This is on page 353 to page 358. The recommendations are on page 358. As recommended. Councillor Jube. Can you please press your mic?
Sorry, Chair, I just have a few questions for the department, if possible. Okay, firstly, on the report, it shows the implementation will be 3 months to 5 years. On the annexure, it says 3 months to 2 years. So they just need to give me a clarity with regards to that. And then I just want to state, this report has been serving to infinity on impact. This report was, I think, on the month of May. It served with us, and nothing has been implemented. So I just need to do an additional recommendation if possible.
Okay, so let's take the question and then you can come back for a recommendation. Is there anyone from the department on that?
I'm here, Chair. Thank you very much, Councillor. I think there has been an error on the report. The implementation, it's as indicated in the action plan, which is between 3 months and 2 years. I think maybe on the subsequent question in relation to this report coming consistently on this meeting, I think the committee has been requesting further inputs on the report in relation to the implementation plan and the action plan that we have submitted today. And however, when you look at the implementation plan, it just states the timeframes in which the entire project in relation to the repairs of the Lekwe Bridge will be unfolding. And that is also based on the fact that when you look at our financial constraints, we couldn't budget for this in the last few years. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Jube?
I just have another question, just for clarity. The 4 million that was put aside, is it still on the cards for the upgrading?
Thanks, Chair. The 4 million, it was actually proposed during the current year budget, but however, it was not appropriated. So obviously, when we go into a new financial year, we also need to look at how then, from the city side, we do fund some of the imperatives that relates to Weybridge and the landfill sites. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Jube, will we take the recommendation?
Okay. Additional recommendation that the follow-up report on the implementation of the action plan be served at the December impact meeting, recommended by myself, Councillor Marie Uber, seconded by Councillor Adriana Randall. Thank you.
Councillor Jube, I don't think we'll have a meeting in December because I think our last council meeting is at the end of November. So maybe change it to November and not December. Okay, thank you. So the additional recommendation on report number 8 is that a follow-up report on the implementation on the action plan be served at the next MPEG meeting of November 2024. This is a recommendation made by Councillor Jube, seconded by Councillor A. Randall. As amended? Okay, now we go to report number 9. This report is from Energy and Electricity Department. Progress report on the installation electricity prepaid meters to indigent customers. This report is between page 359 to 367. The recommendations are on page 367. As recommended, Councillor Jube.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a few questions for the department with regards to the prepaid meters for the indigent residents. I note on the report for Region 3, Arcadia, Rietfontein, Sunnyside, CBD, we're standing at 16 prepaid meters. I know for a fact that there's 3 housing company facilities that has about plus minus 250 residents or more. So this raises serious questions with regards to how many prepaid meters is on the books for the city. So if they can just give me some clarity with regards to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have somebody from Energy and Electricity to respond to Councillor Jube's question?
Okay, good morning. With regard to the housing company meters, we are doing it separately from this program. So the one that we're going to do for the indigents, which is under the COT houses, the program is different from this one, but we've already planned with them, for them to install a prepaid in those areas.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jube. As recommended? Okay, then obviously report number 10 was a duplication, so that will fall off as we've already dealt with it. We will then move to report number 11 from Roads and Transport Department. This report is between page 377 to 401. The report is about briefing on the status of restructuring and provision of new lease agreements at Wonderboom National Airport. As recommended, Councillor Randall.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just allow me a few comments and remarks. The crux of this policy and where it comes from is that it was based on tradition and not policy, and that we took notice of. So the discount cannot be as a matter of obligation, and comments by the Chief of Staffs, where he said we cannot be held at ransom for fearing, or what I deducted, we cannot be held at ransom fearing that schools will withdraw from this airport.
Sorry, Councillor Randall. So that is a different one. There's the one, I think your comments are on the 80%. Just double check, you're on the 80%, right?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Yes, so I think that is coming in the next supplementary agenda, but it is on the comments as spot on here. Okay, so this is on the restructuring as recommended. Okay, then we go to report number 12. This is from Regional Operations and Coordination Department. Follow up on grass cutting report for the 2023-2024 financial year. The report is between page 402 to 408. The recommendations are on page 408. As recommended, Councillor Farquharson.
Thanks very much, Chair. I just want to make a comment and ask a question. The comment is that the city has been really badly hit by fires because grass cutting not being done because of the illegal industrial action. And I see on this report that a lot of grass cutting was stopped because of the illegal strike. And the question is the city trying to recover damages from the people who prevented grass cutting? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Farquharson. Do we have someone from ROC that can respond to that?
Morning, Chair. Yes, Putimoloto from ROC, the acting group head of ROC. And I just want to, that was last year, Councillor, when we had the strike, and the achievement of grass cutting that we received was as part of the accelerated integrated urban management that we embarked on post-November. In terms of the recovery, there is a table that we have provided. If you were to check under 4.3, we are the first to acknowledge that the previous financial year, we achieved very little, in terms of, we achieved 67%, about 70% of what we envisaged to achieve, and mainly for the reason that has already been granted. However, there is a challenge in grass cutting that we need to mention, and that talks to the issue of recovery, is that we have been having a lot of challenges there. One of them being funding. in the previous financial year, there was no funding granted for grass cutting. So even the grass cutting that we achieved as a department was purely administratively. We had to identify savings from other votes to be able to capacitate that. And the trend has continued in this current financial year. However, just like what we have done in the previous year, there has been measures that, we will augment those that were not capacitated. And we already started with the grass cutting program in October. Like I said, the only challenge that we are having is that we are having constraints, but we are working within those constraints. So I wouldn't say that will recover because grass cutting, even if you cut it last year, it has grown now. But the program that we've got in this year covers all the grass that was referenced in the 2021-22 financial year. So we are hopeful that we'll be able to reach the bigger part of the city when the program that has just started now in October. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. You covered, Councillor Ferguson. As recommended? Then we go to report number 13. This is from Water and Sanitation Department, 2023-2024 financial year, first quarter progress report on the installation of water management devices for indigent customers. This report is on page 409 to 413. The recommendations are on page 413. As recommended, Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've just had a report, a meeting with Province about the scarcity of water and how all water must be saved and conserved to stop a day zero event. This report is very disappointing. It doesn't come up with a solution on how to limit water. There's nothing substantive. It's just like the gist of the report seems to be people can use water as they want to because the city is not blocking. If the ancient Romans could get it right to limit water usage, I think it's very disappointing that the city can't do the same 2,000 years later. And I would expect to see some kind of plan or some device or some technicality. But this is unacceptable. We're just handing over water to people who are not paying for it, are not limited. We aren't charging, and we don't know how much they're using. So, Madam Chair, this is a very disappointing report. Thank you.
Okay, I think your comments, and also, do you want to make a recommendation? As recommended. Okay. So then we move on to our first supplementary agenda. Councillor Randall, this is the one now. This is from Roads and Transport Department, review of the 80% discount on airport traffic charges for aircrew training activities at Municipal National Airport. This report is between page 4 and 18. The recommendations are on page 18. Councillor Randall.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Sorry for the confusion earlier on. As I said, it was always based on tradition and never on policy, and I'm glad to see that there would be something put together going forward in terms to formalize the way things will work here. Now, Chair, if you look at a private pilot license, estimated today cost 150,000, and then a commercial license cost about 350,000. So these flight schools mustn't come and hold us ransom, and we mustn't fear that they would leave the airport because of that. I'm sure they're making a very good living, and we've seen that it's mostly international students that frequents our Wonoboom airport, with our own students being receiving fully funded packages by TITA and NSF. So that was one of the demands of the remarks that I wanted to make. So we are definitely in support that this 80% tariff be reduced to 50%, and then further implemented down to 25 and 10%. My only question, and if it's not the case at the moment, I would then bring an additional recommendation, is can I get an indication of where we are in terms of the signed contracts with the flight training schools at this stage? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Randall. Can we get someone from Roads and Transport to respond?
All right, thank you. We don't have user contracts with flying schools at Vonderbom National Airport. The only contract that exists at Vonderbom Airport are property lease rentals. You will see on the earlier report that we are proposing going forward that we need to have 4 sets of contracts. 2 for property rentals, which is developmental and non-developmental, and the other contract be that for the retail business, meaning car hires, shops, restaurants, and so on. And the last contract, which is more popular in the commercial aviation space, they call it slots. But in our case, as a general aviation airport, we're going to call it the user rights, such that we start to control the entry of flying schools at Vonderbom Airport, because they are benefiting from the discounts that we're offering, that the city is offering around their training activities. So that's the framework that we propose, and the contracts that is going to be applicable to fly schools that are interested in opening and operating at Vonderbom Airport, in line with the policy that we're going to develop, is the user right contract that we proposed that needs to be in place, because it's going to go even a long way in assisting the city in managing the relationship between the fixed base operators, meaning the aircrew training schools, with the city going forward. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Randall.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation, Madam Chair. So can I please then call for an additional recommendation that the signing of user contracts with flight training schools be expedited and finalized. Proposed by myself and seconded by Councillor Farquharson.
Okay, the additional recommendation is that the signing of user contracts with flight training schools be expedited and finalized. This is proposed by Councillor A. Randall and seconded by Councillor D. Farquharson. As amended. Okay, then we move on to report. We move on to the second report. This is from Committe and Social Development Services Department. This report is on the status for the completion of the upgrading of Refugee Stadium. This report is between page 19 and 31. The recommendations are on page 31. Councillor Randall.
Thank you so much, Chair. Again, just a few comments and then potentially an additional recommendation. We noted that the contractor was appointed in 2019 at a cost of 61.6 million rand, and additional costs and extension of time was approved by the BIC in 2021 and again in 23. So my question is, what led to the additional costs? So was there a cost increases of was there a problem with the project life cycle or the design or whatever the scope initially? So if we can get more clarity. If you look at MISA, the Municipal Infrastructure Agency, for urban and public infrastructure guidelines. They are very clear in terms of, your unit costs, like a price costing index model. I'm sure government is still busy designing it, but going forward, something like that would assist us in terms of, to contain the cost overruns of the initially budgeted project. And I think we should just have a look at that going forward. My other concern is the security of this infrastructure project. Due to, construction being halted, it can become very costly when you look at vandalism and theft. And we need to quantify these costs, and we need to reduce these costs where possible. We've noted the termination approval now in last year, September 2023, eventually. And then the other thing, sorry, I'm just jumping around. My eyes are just catching all my notes. The disastrous impact of contractors that's not paying subcontractors. Because COT obviously had a contract with Glad Africa, not with a subcontractor. So we were again held hostage because they didn't submit the drawings to the city of Tshwane because Glad Africa did not pay the subcontractor its fees. Something needs to be done. Currently, there's no legislation in place that can give us a mandate to force a contractor to pay a subcontractor. As I said, that the contract's between me and the main contractor, and that can also bite us in the back in terms of our infrastructure project. So for me, it's going to become very critical that we look at legislation and proper contract management, and I will be calling for a report later on that. My additional recommendation, I don't know if you want me to give an opportunity first, or can I just sponsor or just then give you my additional recommendation?
I think allow maybe the department to react to your comments, and then after you get some response, then you can do your recommendation. So is there someone from social development that can answer those and react to the comments?
Morning, Chair, and thank you. The reasons for the escalation and cost for the Refilwe project is mainly the management of this particular, the project management of the contract. But what has since happened is that we've requested a forensic audit on it, as well as Caledonian. So we are in constant engagement with CAE to appoint a forensic external auditor. And then we've since started the procurement process to finish it off. And we've also managed to secure the additional 6 million that is required to complete. The project is currently at specification stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Randall, I think you can make your recommendation.
Chair, please just allow me. It's something that was commented on now that triggered another question. The 6 million rand shortfall. The practical completion date is indicated as June next year. So this 6 million rand have to be taken from the adjustment budget for the current financial year or from the budget from the 25-26 financial year. So again, you see, it opens up a door for, no, we didn't get the 6 million, so we're going to overshoot the project completion date again. So it's a lot of uncertainty, and that bothers me because it can obviously lead to more delays. But with that said, Chair, let me just then give you my recommendation, the additional one, that due to the ongoing costs of theft and vandalism, the security of this project receive the highest priority. It's proposed by myself, Councillor Randall, and seconded by Councillor Farquharson. Thank you.
Just while we wait for that, do you want to comment on the issue of the budget?
Yes, I indicated earlier, Councillor, that we've resolved the problem with the CFO next to me here. So we should be getting it from the USDG grant. But this will only happen if we fast-track the procurement process. We are at specification stage right now.
So that if that is fast-tracked, then you'll meet the completion date. Great. Okay, good. So the additional recommendation is that due to the ongoing cost of theft and vandalism, security of this project receive a highest priority. This is proposed by Councillor A. Randall and seconded by Councillor D. Farquharson. As amended. Okay. So now we go to report number 3. This is Office of the City Manager Department status on the resolution of the issued material irregularity findings as of 30 September 2024. This report is between page 32 and page 37. The recommendations are on page 37. Councillor Randall, please stop intimidating other councillors, Councillor Farquharson. I saw that. Continue, Councillor Randall.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question and maybe a concern. If you look at the material irregularity number 5 of 2019-2020, it was with regard to the overpayment of fuel purchases. The activity plan is that it's anticipated that the court date, as provided by the attorneys, is for the second quarter of 2028. Can this be true? Can I just get clarity? Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Chair, yes. I mean, can even say so help me God, but those are the court dates that one is now looking at in the High Court in the North Gauteng division of 2028, and it's becoming worse, just by the way. Thank you.
Yeah. So, as recommended, Councillor Farquharson. Oh, you wanted to go first?
Yes, Madam Chair, I was being polite to Councillor Randall. She didn't intimidate me. No, she did try. Okay, my question is, would it not be better to use the National Prosecuting Authority for recoveries? Because they have their own mechanisms, their own courts. So if we do it through the City Litigation Department, we are at the whim of the court system. But if we put everything through the National Prosecuting Authority, they can assist us and help us. So could I get a feeling on this, please? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Khatlhe.
Chairperson, that's why sometimes when you speak, we have to check all the circumstances of what are we recovering and how much it will cost us. It's the type of things that we had to look at and be able to consider, to say that the cost dates and things like that, are we going for 1 million? It will cost us how many cases and things, the process itself, and with the consequences of this. That's why whether we recover or we collect or we settle out of court, it's quite important how we play the game. And we need to be advised and advise each other in council as we deal with these matters without being emotional or attacking people or protecting people, but just dealing with the facts on the table and be able to come out to a point of really being honest with ourselves. For some of the cases, are they worth going after, or should we just take other avenues in dealing with them? Thanks a lot.
When you said I was intimidating, I forgot half of what I wanted to say. So I forgot on material irregularity number 4 for 2019 and 20, the salary payment made to employees for work not done. I see the arbitration is due for next week, Tuesday, the 15th of October, and a criminal case is also being pursued. So maybe if we can just be kept abreast of the outcomes. And then I want to agree, we don't have a problem with what you're saying to my fellow councillor there, but if consequence management was effectively and productively applied, then we wouldn't have been arguing about recovery and write-off. Thank you.
Okay, CM.
Chair, I absolutely take on board the comments with regard to how to with this more speedy resolution of these matters. You know, do we making a conscious and a realistic appraisal as to what is the best way forward. In these particular cases, these cases deal with material irregularities. So they were here, something did not happen, and now the AG is overseeing this. And they're doing it in terms of the Public Audit Act. So in terms of the options open to the municipality when we do this, these are under very strict, if I say guidance, it's guidance in the broader scheme of things, but it's actually more of directives by the AG. So if the AG says that show us how you are going to recover, then you must show how you're going to recover, and they will not let it go until there is a court date, for example. So the same with the National Prosecuting Authority. In fact, in most of these cases of the MIs, you must do all three. You must discipline to the extent that you can discipline if people are still here. You must recover because the majority of them are recoverable, and you must lay criminal charges. So the state will be involved. The civil courts will always be involved, even if it is the NPA or even if it is the SIU. So the SIU also come across these kind of cases, except for the SIU, there is a tribunal that would sit. But even that tribunal, there is no guarantee that things will happen within a year or two. That's where we are. Thank you.
No, thank you for that comment. And I just think also it does also speak to the issue of effective oversight, because if our oversight was also functional, half of these material irregularities would not have happened. This is at the end, and it's always difficult when you want to fix things when things have gone horribly wrong. So I think that part of the report that we put through where we're asking for resources is so that we can strengthen our oversight role, so that we can pick up these things before they become big problems. Councillor Simfeng.
Thank you, Chair. To what Councillor David said, Chair, I think maybe the city should consider Section 300 of the Criminal Procedure Act to see how can we use that to our own benefit. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Simfeng. As recommended, then we go to report number 4. Remember, colleagues, we've already received the presentation. We did not deal with the report, but it was just presentation for information's sake. So now this is the presentation relating to that. This is the report relating to the presentation. This is from Communications, Marketing and Events Department, Deviation Report, Direct Media Buying for Statutory and Other Advertisement, Cost-Saving Evidence. This report is between page 38 to page 46. The recommendations are on page 46. As recommended, Councillor Randall.
Chair, yes, we want to commend the report and the cost savings, but the question flowing from that is the emergency procurement that took place, the Section 36. The deviation is a 20% allowed. Sorry, I'm just quickly thinking about that. The cost savings, did it match the difference in terms of the variation because of the emergency procurement?
Yeah. Is there someone from marketing? I know the director gave an apology that he has to run to a crisis that they are dealing with. I don't know if is there someone from communications that can respond to Councillor Randall's question?
Sam, thank you for the opportunity. Greetings, Chairperson of MPAC and Honourable Councillors. I think indeed a critical element for us was the value for money aspect. And in terms of the analysis that has been brought on board, we are particularly pleased with the aspect that there has been value from the exercise that we've undertaken, and there's sufficient accountability in the process that is followed from transparency perspective. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, as recommended. Then we move on to our second supplementary agenda. This, the first report on the second supplementary agenda is from Office of the Speaker, Oversight Report on Health Department, Operations Support Division Program Management, Progress Report on the construction of new Lusaka Clinic as of 29 February 2024. This report is between page 4 to page 22. The recommendations are on page 10. Remember, colleagues, this is the report that was referred to us by Council. So, as recommended. Okay. Then, colleagues, we move on to our third supplementary agenda. The first report on the third supplementary agenda is from Group Audit and Risk Department, 2024-2025 quarter 1. This is the APC MACO report. This report is on page 4 to page 9. The recommendations are on page 9. Are there any questions? The APC chair is here. Maybe I'll give you just a few minutes to highlight a few things on the report, and then allow Councillor Farquharson to come.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report deals with the first quarter of the last financial year. So there are a number of things that are mentioned in there that fortunately have been resolved and which are no longer problems. So I'm going to take you through and give you some highlights, and the City Manager has very kindly provided a good summary of the key findings in the report, and particularly as regards the control deficiencies that were identified by the Audit and Performance Committee that needed to be addressed. So that the covering pages are a good summary of the issues. But I'm going to dive into the detail of my report and just highlight the first issue that is addressed on page 11 is the compliance management review, and this is mentioned 2 or 3 times in this particular report. The fact that individual departments within the city do not actively have people that are allocated responsibility for making sure that compliance is adhered to. There is a quarterly compliance report that is now presented to the APC that deals mostly with the MFMA requirements, reporting requirements, etc. But the Department of Health has very specific compliance requirements in terms of what it needs to do in terms of controlling the medicine it oversees in the clinics. The department, in terms of things that are currently very high profile, food safety, the Department of Water has the water quality as a compliance requirement, and it's the formalization of that and making sure that the risks of non-compliance are dealt with. And that's one that the city is working on dealing with, but it is not yet embedded in the culture of the city to ensure compliance. Then on performance information, this is unfortunately one that remains a constant thorn. The APC got quite irritated in the last round of meetings because the issues that are being reported even in this report, but which were further reported in the next 2 quarters and I suspect are going to be reported in the new year, essentially says that very basic procedures around performance management are not there. And perhaps we're digging in deeper and deeper and asking why, and what's available to check these things. And it really boils down to the basic lack of controls, the basic holding people responsible. And I always use a very simple example. If you've got a petty cash box, somebody needs to count the petty cash box every day. They need to sign that they've counted it, and their supervisor needs to sign it once a week that he's also seen that the cash exists. That's a control system. If we're having performance information where we have a detailed set of procedures, and the Auditor General and the Act requires detailed sets of procedures to be in place for performance management. This is how we actually define our objectives, this is how we measure our objectives, this is how we report back, this is by when we report back, this is the quality of the information that is expected to be reported back, and those things are in place. The problem is they are ignored more than adhered to, which says that it's not the procedures that are missing, it's the process of managing those procedures and the implementation. There are 108 or something different KPIs that the city needs to achieve, plus another 80 or something under Circular 88. Each of those has a set of procedures. But people internal audit every time they go in and check the numbers that are being reported, find mistakes. And it's from 5 to 10 of the items that they check, and they check on a random basis. They don't check all of them every quarter. They are obliged by law to check and audit that every quarter. We should be getting clean audit reports every quarter from GAR. So the basic procedures of how we manage the information that goes to council on how well we are achieving our KPIs is not strictly adhered to. People aren't held accountable for when they are not reporting under those procedures that are in place. So that's a thing that each of you and your colleagues in the other committees can start focusing on, is asking every time there's a KPI that you are reviewing, how well is that addressed? If there are findings coming out of internal audit that the numbers need to change, why? And again, ask why, and then who is responsible? Why isn't there disciplinary action being implemented? I think the new Section 56 managers, the GSO, the CSO, are on top of this, so COO. They are pushing for better reporting. But it is nevertheless something that, from council's perspective, can achieve. It would be useful if there was pressure from council to make sure that that happens properly. Okay, then we're talking about in Section 6, the 2022-23 financial statements. That audit's gone, so I'm not going to repeat or go into that detail. The general control environment. I think that the financial position of the city is a worry to the APC. The new CFO has committed to a new financial recovery plan. There was a feedback given in the last meeting on the actions taken against the financial recovery plan, but it is an old plan that needs to be revised. So the opportunity is there with new political oversight to actually revive that plan, to make sure that it aligns with the very good principles that were set out in the previous mayoral charter. But I'm sure that there's new thinking that the new political regime will bring in. But it is very important that a plan be put in place that is actively managed. The problem with this plan is it goes back to just after COVID. It's been more ignored than implemented, particularly on the detailed things. There's an 80-20 principle, right? If you focus on the 20 top things, you're going to achieve 80% of what you need. Those are the things that are perhaps in the mayoral charter, but the 20% also need attention. They can't all be neglected. They can't all be left for people not to follow up. So if you really push on everything in the plan, and it's things like you're talking about the airport, but the airport has been something that's been a problem for the last 8 years, if not the last 18 years. It really needs focus to make sure that we get the fees that we can get out of that airport, that we sweat the city's asset. Financial recovery means we sweat our assets and we actually get money. Right. The issue around MSCO compliance, it's still not fully compatible. The S4HANA project is still ongoing, so there's still some manual overrides and adjustments that are happening. There's two systems functioning next to each other. We don't have one SAP system that produces a good set of management accounts, still some manual intervention. But the problems mentioned in this report have been resolved, and for that you can thank the new CFO. He has managed to get a good working relationship with the IT department, and some of the issues that are related are discussed here about the IT department and their lack of understanding of what the user's needs are, hopefully are addressed by a CFO that knows what he wants out of a financial system. Right. The finance department had at that stage a significant lack of capacity and expertise. With the new CFO and also with the appointment of somebody specifically for financial statements, which was one of the vacancies that was created at the end of last year, not vacancies that happened at the end of last year, some of those gaps have been replaced. But there really is still a need for somebody who can that can manage debtors well, that can manage creditors well, that can do proper cash flow projections and create scenarios that are credible to our creditors when we go and negotiate with them, and that we can hold ourselves accountable to in terms of our future cash flows. The financial position of the city remains precarious, and good cash flow management is essential. And that means we need to know what's happening in our debtors, all 23 billion of it, in our creditors, all 8 or 10 billion of it, and in our expenditure. More detailed information and more financial management is needed to continue to turn the city around. So financial expertise is still short for the city, but much improved from the position when this report was dealt with. Internal audit findings. The pressure that was put by the previous MACO on staff, and also the city manager put pressure on staff to address the external audit findings, needs to be replicated from an internal audit finding perspective. The period in which internal audit findings are resolved remains very, very long. There's a long cycle. We have proven that in some of the smaller entities, ACT and TIDA, it's possible to actually resolve the things within three months. There needs to be further pressure to really resolve findings. The problem is many of internal audit findings within the city have their base in a system that hasn't been well designed, a system that hasn't identified what the issues are that needs to be managed and addresses those issues properly. So systems design remains a major stumbling block, and that's something that can't be fixed quickly. This is what the red frowny faces are about in these reports. It says we haven't got a system that has been properly thought through and addresses all the risks that might happen in that particular area. And that requires more dedication. It requires a lot more focus, and it requires really good management. Hopefully the new Section 56 managers, who are all professionals, can take that and run with it. But I've expressed myself previously that the problem with the city is that politicians land up doing senior management's jobs. Senior management is unable to do middle management's job, and middle management is unable to do their underling's job. There's a problem in terms of the level at which we're functioning. And we need to start really making sure that the city functions from really competent people at the bottom all the way to the top to make systems work. Risk oversight, we now have a separate risk oversight committee chaired by an external chairman. That chairman is incredibly well qualified in risk management in municipalities. I think he's given very valuable input. He has supported the APC in some of our remarks in the past. He's added additional insights into what needs to change in risk management. So we are hoping to see a major change, not just in the reports about risks, because that doesn't help. That's just talking about talks. In how the risks actually get managed, how we dig down, change systems to make sure risks don't realize. That's what risk management is about, is stopping the thing before the negative consequence happens. And if we do that, then we don't have UIFW, we don't have all these material irregularities, because people have thought about it right up front and designed a system that makes sure it doesn't happen. So I think that that's a major change in the governance structures of the city. Forensic services, you're going to be dealing with stuff much more up to date than this later on in the confidential agenda, so I won't go into those issues. ICT I've discussed. HCT continues to have cash flow problems, and it had a major loss in court on one of the contracts that got cancelled. It required cash at the end of the year, which the city has provided, but that cash was desperately needed for other places as well. So the fact that we had a court order meant the city had to stand in for it. But the HCT remains in a position where it is dependent on SHRA funding and the city's funding, and the city's funding needs to come timeously so that contracts can be done or implemented. So HCT still has potential cash flow problems. They haven't realized in particularly many stoppages, but there are stoppages as a result of the lack of cash. And that extra drain of the lost court case just means a loss for the city as a whole. So it is an issue that needs to be carefully monitored. The financial statements for HCT compliance with GRAP, that issue has been sorted. Their new financial statements took the advice of the APC into account. We have yet to hear what the Auditor General thinks about that, but they have carefully thought about how they present their financial statements and have taken appropriate accounting advice. I think that's all that's in detail there. I think there's quite a bit of good news in the follow-ups to the issues that have been raised in this report. I will take questions.
Thank you, APC. I think what we need to do going forward is just to make sure that we then are able to deal with the most recent report, because it is, it kind of like feels a little bit futile when we get this report coming at this time, but it's something that we can address. Councillor Farquharson, Councillor Hartley.
Thank you very much for that very insightful presentation. From our side, we are thrilled to see that the wonderful city manager is getting people to sign job contracts and put together KRAs or KPIs, which are pushing us in the right direction. I think what we're going to have to do as a committee is there is a municipal finance management circular on standard operating procedures, and I think we should work together to question the city on are the standard operating procedures in line with what the circular says. But thanks very much for the presentation. We have seen worse, believe it or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farquharson. Councillor Hartley.
Thanks a lot. I'll pay attention to the performance information, and it gives me a catch-up because I came late. There were issues of performance that I wanted to address, so this gives me a better advantage. If you check the performance, I think we pay senior management for performance. Key performance indicators is why you are paid. You exist to provide us with key performance indicators. If you sign agreements, it will be on the key performance indicators. And you go into that slides, you realize that community service is at 83%. Customer relation management, 0. People got salaries, we are at 0. You go down to energy and electricity. We are in a financial crisis, and it's supposed to assist us generate revenue as a city. It's at 0. Then energy service development, 100%, congrats. Then you go to environmental and agriculture management, 0. You go to your finance 5% financial services, we're at 5%. You go to your regional water and sanitation is at 50, at least I've tried. You go to your regional operation, the pressure, councillors are getting pressure every day, protest, we are working overtime. We're actually trying to calm people down. I just came late because there was some protest in the road was just blocked. I had to go another way around. We are at 20%. City manager, this is my areas of concern. I realized that some things that were not submitted during when audit got to this level. But even on the previous one, I realized certain things like this on the previous report that I was not around to deal with. But our performance, MPEC is also a performance committee, and we need to be concerned with these things and be able to measure them. If we go on like this, we're gonna get to unqualified, qualified audit, adverse. It starts here. Every time, every day, we need to do something. I respect your comments to make sure that we get to the standard that is right. Do the right things every day, and those things, as they add on each other, eventually we get a good audit. We can't always wait, last minute thing, hire a consultant to try to fix the house so that we get a good audit. No, audit has to be done daily, hourly, everything that happens. And this is not a good performance for me. It's just not a good performance. And I think a lot better can be done. We hope that the next quarter will change this thing to at least 60%, but 33 man. We are that 30% pass rate. I think that 30% pass rate came with problems now. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Councillor Khatle. CM. Yes, City Manager, Councillor Khatle made comments with reference to your office in terms of fast-tracking the concerns that the APC has noted in the report.
Yes, sorry. Now, my impression was that it was for the APC chair to comment on those. The performance that was reflected here was for the first quarter of the 23-24 financial year. There has been improvements as far as that was concerned. All of those were then also discussed and were monitored by the mayoral committee. But I absolutely do take the point that the performance begins and it ends with top management, and I think that is also the responsibility that we have taken as far as this was concerned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As recommended. Okay, so just so that we are also on par with everything that is happening, I think we will try and get the report and we'll invite the APC to our own meeting where we can be brought up to speed. And also maybe invite some of the committees that we feel maybe they are also lagging behind, because I think that the APC should not only be limited to MPEC, but there are other service delivery portfolios that should be doing oversight on some of the things, some of the KPIs from the various departments. So we will maybe have like a joint meeting with you and those other committees. Thank you. We will now move on to report number 2. This is from Group Human Capital Department, Financial Disclosure Register for 2023-2024 financial year, in line with clause 4.1.2 of Government Notice 805 of 2006 of the Municipal Finance Management Act. This report is between page 10 to page 22. The recommendations are on page 22. Councillor Farkas.
Thanks, Madam Chair. This is a step forward in getting the city compliant with legislation. I just have a question. There are people who have not submitted. Are they going to face consequence management? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And just also, while they respond to that, there is also a need that councillors also submit, because as much as we expect the top managers to submit their disclosures, there is a report that has to come from councillors that has to come to council as well. So we hope that will be done in the next, in our next meeting. Thank you. Over to Group Human Capital. Is there consequence management to people that haven't submitted?
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning to you and the councillors and colleagues on the platform. In terms of the two top management officials that have not yet submitted their disclosures, we did circulate the follow-up emails through to their officers, as well as made their supervisors aware of this particular non-conformance. Obviously, the next step will be consequence management, where their immediate supervisors need to implement consequence management towards those particular two officials. Councillor, thank you.
Okay, thank you. As recommended? Okay, thank you, colleagues. So we will now have our confidential matters, but before that, because some of the other colleagues will have to be excused, just to check, do we have any calling of reports? Councillor Randall?
Thank you for the opportunity, Chairperson. My subject is obviously, as I've alluded to earlier, contract management. My motivation is that the Auditor General of South Africa specifically audits departments on contract management, and many departments either present with poor or non-existent contract management practices. These findings must be avoided at all costs, as it impacts on the effectiveness of internal controls, accountability, governance, and making the funds entrusted into service delivery work. Poor contract management results in poor supplier and buyer and other stakeholder relationships, negative public